All right, so on page 108, we are in some of the final pages of part one, and we're back to Ray speaking. He's in this school. We know because Hideki just told us that he was looking at the picture and took the picture. And he's noticing some things about these kids. If they're not smiling, he's wondering if they knew they were going to die. He's wondering if the soldiers that killed them would have fired that bomb if they knew that it was falling on innocent school children. And he's kind of sickened by it, but that at the same time, he says, wait, I did that. I killed innocent people, as we saw in the last chapter when he just kind of opened fire. So he's realizing that this is war and everybody's doing what they need to survive. And it's not always pretty or fun. And a lot of times it's heartbreaking. And so as he goes, they realize they're walking away, that there's definitely a counterattack. There's fighting happening or something because there's all this gunfire and bombs exploding. And the radio guy gets on and realizes that the bombs exploding and the gunfire is not an attack, but they're celebrating because Germany has just surrendered. The war in Europe has officially ended. It's VE Day, Victory in Europe. That's what they call it. Hitler has died. He committed suicide. The Nazis are over. That part of the war is done. Those people can go. And they all have kind of these bittersweet feelings about it. They're not sure what to do because on one hand, it's really exciting. That shows some signal that the war is coming to a close and all those guys get to go home. And that's what Zimmer's asking. He's like, this is good news, right? And the rest of them are like, yeah, that's Europe. We're fighting on the Pacific end. We're in Japan. And that's a whole different war, really. I mean, yes, they're fighting for the same thing. And Japan and Germany were on the same side. But they also kind of had their own battle. And he's like, just because the war is over there, Japan hasn't surrendered. This war is still going. We're still stuck here fighting. And just as a way to kind of lighten the mood, I guess, right then is when the mail delivery comes. And they're all getting mail. And Ray gets a letter from his mom, has a picture of him and his dad looking all happy at the state fair. And he realizes a few things within this. Mom's trying to send this to remind him, hey, your dad hasn't always been this monster. You guys used to really get along. But then he remembers horrible things about his dad. And he realizes all at once, maybe this war that his dad fought in, which was World War One, is what turned his dad into this monster. Maybe he used to be a really loving guy, and seeing all this death has hardened him the way it's already starting to harden Ray and his sergeant and Big John. All these people are kind of numb to all this now. And he's realizing, can you be a good guy and be ruined by war? Is this my fate too? Maybe my dad was trying to protect me. Maybe that's why he wouldn't let me go to war, because he doesn't like who he's become either. And then they all start sharing what they got, right? Busco gets a letter from his girlfriend, and he's all excited that he has this letter. He presumably wants to marry her someday. And they're all joking, like, oh, you're going to move in with her when you get back? And he's like, no, they live in a funeral home. I don't plan on going to a funeral home. And another guy says, hey, guys, this is a funny joke, but stuff like this happens. He basically got a letter from the state of Missouri saying, hey, you have some traffic tickets, like speeding tickets and whatnot. And if you don't pay these, you have to go to jail. We're going to arrest you, which does happen. If you don't pay enough tickets, you can go to jail. But he's like, jail or fighting in a war, which could be worse? And they're all kind of laughing about it. And which time they start getting attacked, right? They see all these soldiers coming back from the front who are just downtrodden. They look beat up. They have no hope. And then they start hearing their own artillery. They're getting shot at. And they dive down in, and Big John writes on the envelope for Zimmer, deceased, and tells him to mail that back. And if you don't know what deceased means, it means dead. Does it mean that he thinks that Zimmer's going to die? No, not necessarily. He knows that it's likely for any of them, and he's like, you've got bigger fish to fry than a speeding ticket. So he's kind of helping him get out of that ticket.